there is a custom Python gateway here for certain things that basically they are legacy sensors, and I had to find the hardware solution for them that would go and convert it to something that Home Assistant will understand. And the way was doing it was MQTT. Mosquito is the MQTT broker. But then here are my sensors that I showed you, the humidity sensor. Okay, this guy. Okay, that guy. And the garage door sensor, this guy. So these guys, because they are Wi-Fi enabled, they can talk directly to Mosquito, and then Mosquito would send this message to Home Assistant. Okay? And then Home Assistant has lots of other stuff that can get through, whether it's hardware or services. And then it can give you back notifications, or there is lots of other stuff. There is alerts, there is automations, so basically scripting. I'll show you some of that. So Home Assistant is written in pure Python. It's not written, it doesn't have like any C extensions or anything like that. So it's easy to run on any Linux platform that you have. There are several installation methods. One is called Hasio. So it's a custom Raspberry Pi distro. I don't like to run my stuff in a something that is sort of proprietary. So I chose the other way, which is basically Raspbian, which is the most commonly used operating system for the Raspberry Pi. And there is something called VN, virtual environment. So basically, if you have your for example, your Python on your system is 2.7 and 3. Whatever, but then this guy requires 3. Something else. VN allows you to run that specific version of Python inside that VN without impacting anything else in the system, which is really good. It interfaces to over 1,100 devices and services. Many of them are cloud services that I avoid for reasons that I mentioned before, privacy and all that. And let's do a brief tour of the Okay, so this is my control panel with Home Assistant. It just tells me that the alarm system sensors are off, so it means that no alarm has been triggered to on. So off is good, on is bad. I can actually, it's disarmed, so I can actually, even if I'm outside, I can arm it. Okay, so if I have an internet connection, I forgot to arm my alarm, I can go in and arm it from anywhere that I have internet. So there are two types of arm. The difference isn't important. There is the indoor climate, so these are the, okay, so this is exactly what this guy sends. Okay, so it gets the indoor temperature, and you can see that it keeps dropping overnight and then kicks in at some time before 8 and goes to the 21, and then this flat line is because I have been here for an hour, or whatever, so there's no readings from it. Okay, so if I move the mouse on top of that, it would read the time, and then after that you'd see that it's stuck on that. Okay. Same thing for indoor, and then I calculate the dew point from these two variables. The dew point is basically the point at which moisture will form. So condensation, the point at which condensation. This is important for several things, like your basement's humidity level, for mold and stuff, also for astronomy, whether you'll have condensation on your optics so that everything will fog out. Okay? And then the outdoor climate is something that is from a service. I use two services. One is Weather Underground, the other is YR. If you haven't used YR.info, it's a really cool site. YR.no. Okay, it's actually the Norwegian meteorological service, but it covers the whole world, and it's pretty accurate. Relative humidity is very high because of the rain that we're having, and this is the alerts. Is basically something that I custom wrote. I'll show you what it does later. This is the details on the weather from the two services. One is YR, so this is the current weather for YR, current weather for W Underground. and then the forecast. So it tells you exactly what the forecast is. So at a glance. Okay? I haven't bothered to rename these things, but they are self-explanatory. You know, so I can go and rename them. But this one is more friendly. Astronomy is something that I started. I haven't finished yet. It's basically is the moon. What is the moon phase? The sun is below the horizon. Dusk and dawn times. Okay, sunset and sunrise. The automations is basically the scripting, and there are a whole bunch of stuff here. Okay, if a sensor is open, then detect it. If the alarm is on and the sensor is open, then sound the alarm. The alerts is basically if something needs your attention. And usually I tie this to email, and I get email on stuff like that. So that's a quick tour through my version of Home Assistant, but then we go to the site and just look at the components. So these are all the groups that are in there. So let us look at, for example, finance. So Bitcoin, blockchain, okay. Yahoo Finance. So if you want to check your portfolio, stocks and stuff, you can do that. Irrigation. So there are people who send stuff that you can irrigate your. If you didn't do it yourself, Tim, then you can use some of these. Or probably if you can find the MQTT here, then you can just interface your stuff to it. And that's it. Be done with it. Light. So if you go to Home Depot or any of these things, you'll find these devices that are sold. Philips and here is Philips, for example. Wink. And then Z-Wave and Zigbee are basically two other protocols that are also proprietary. They are not open, and they have their own devices that can be interfaced with things. What else here? Leviton is a brand that sells stuff. And then there is the open stuff, which is something called Tasmota. So you can buy switches from China, from a company. I can't remember the name of the company, but then you flash it with that Tasmota thing, and it interfaces with Home Assistant. So you can have a switch that would turn on light at a certain time, turn off at a certain time, or pull the blinds off at a certain time. So you can say, if the sun is up, then pull the blinds out, you know. Binary sensor is basically a sensor that is on or off. Huge stuff, and let's look at this one, the MQTT. So basically, that's how you configure this stuff. So basically, there is a stanza there in a file. It's YAML, the format is YAML, and you can say it's MQTT, and then you fill in these things, and to say on is this and off is that, and that's it. Your sensor would work, and that's how I interface my stuff. Not using the binary sensor, but using the other one, which is wrong window, which is just sensor, which is this guy. Okay, so all these sensors, some of them are commercial, and companies sell lots of stuff for it.
You had the International Space Station. What's that?
It's basically a sensor that tells you where is that.
The previous.
On the previous one or this one?
Yeah, previous.
Previous, this one? No, not this one. So under the binary sensor, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Oh yeah.
Okay, here it is. It will show you if the International Space Station is above you or not. Okay? Because actually there is a better website.
Wolfram Alpha has that, right?
Well, just do this, okay? Heavens above, and go to the ISS, and we need a. Okay, so there are no passes that are available in the next week, over the next week. Or maybe let us see what the location is wrong, so let us put the location here.
Verizon is 850, just sets at 9.
Okay, we'll just take an approximate location and then go to the ISS. Here it is. So this site will show you the brightness basically. The lower the value, the more bright it is. This is how the magnitude system works. So wait for the -3, -3. Okay, there are no -4s here, but -3.7 looks like the brightest. So on October 7. But then we have something called clouds, that we have plenty of it here. So on that, so I've given up on anything that is scheduled. Oh, on that day, go and look for it. Okay, it's always cloudy, so don't do that. Anyway, so that's just a digression here. Let us go back to the devices. So I'll just go over these. So some cars like Tesla can interface to Home Assistant. Okay, and how many people here have a Beamer? Okay, not much, huh? Okay, I wouldn't buy any of these. They're so expensive to fix. Anyway, Mercedes and BMW and Tesla and all these can, Volvo, so they can interface to the. So let's see, for example, so there is a Tesla lock, Tesla HVAC, Tesla device tracker, and all that. So Chevy. Okay, so here is something that's affordable. Okay, let's go and look at the Chevy. But again, this ties into a cloud service. And what does it do for you? On start. It's very slow. It takes 1 to 3 minutes to get information back. So that's the limitation. So let's go look at the other stuff that's in there. So there's something called environment, which is basically HVAC. So you can interface your thermostat to these, or rather, I don't think it's okay. Notifications. So you can get notifications by email, by SMS, or any of these services. Okay. Okay, you can get it on Kodi. So if you have a Kodi device, then you can get a notification there. I just use email, and there is also a speaker. So there is a speaker inside the home, and it can tell me stuff. So if there is a weather alert, it will say weather alert in effect. Okay, and then it will try to read the weather alert for me. So I had this working. It was working fine until I had a weather alert at 2 a.m. when I was sleeping. And then it woke me up. So I turned that off and just said email. I can deal with it when I wake up. Okay, but then the speaker does other stuff, like when you open the door and the alarm was sounded, it has intrusion detected. Okay, and then it will keep beeping, and then after a while it will say, the police will arrive in 7 seconds. Okay, so it will notify the. So you can do many things with the speaker. So I can even now tell them something at home. So if someone entered the house, then I can actually say something there, but I have to type it. It's not I can't speak it. Have to type it. So it uses something text to speech, TTS. There's a service called not a service, a program called Pico TTS. It's really good and understands the punctuation. So if you put an exclamation mark or a question mark, it will change the tone of what it does. It's not like this, lifeless synthetic voice. No, it's a voice that sounds like a human.
What's it called again?
Pico TTS, PICO TTS. Okay. And where is that here? Okay, so let's see if there is a TTS here, text to speech. Here it is. So that's okay. Here it is, Pico TTS, and it's available for Linux. So if you just configure it that way, and it understands French, Spanish, Italian, in addition to English. Okay. Works really well. You can in all the messages I have the message, I type it in as text and it speaks it. So if the door is open, I say open. If the door is closed, say closed. So I have an automation, which is a script, basically a script saying that if a door is open for more than 5 minutes, then it will say sensor open for too long. And then after you close it, say sensor opened after being open for too long. So you have these things. In my old alarm system, which is very old, it used to just beep, and you have to deduce what the beep means. The beeps were all the same. Okay, so I recommend that highly for any project that you need putting voice in. Weather, these are the weather services. I use Weather Underground. You need an API key, so you need to go on their site and register and put an API key, and they limit you to something like so many calls per day. But
They've actually canceled that.
oh,
So if you have an API key already, like you and I do, you can use it, but you can't get a new one.
okay, cool.
So, yeah.
Okay, and there is Yahoo Weather. There is yr.no, which I just go to this website and bookmark it. It's a good weather service. It's very fast. It doesn't have a lot of JavaScript that plagues the Weather Underground. So there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that can be done with things. Documentation is there is cameras, so you can put cameras, and you can actually on the homepage have a video of the area, okay, that you're monitoring, so you can look in the house what's happening now. There are two modes. I think there are video, and then there is stills every once in a while, and then you can trigger that. If the door is open, then take the stills. Don't do anything otherwise. You can do that. Climate is where the heating and cooling stuff is. So all the expensive thermostats like Nest and stuff. So you can interface that too. But then I found that first of all, this stuff is very expensive, $200 or $150 each, and then I have to install it using the wires that are coming down from the air condition and the furnace, and there are so many of them, and I said, nah, I'm not going to do that. So anyways, it's a really cool package. If you know Python, it's I'll show you also what I did with it, because it's let's unplug this. Okay, so I'll show you something that so this is the directory that has the configuration for the Home Assistant. I won't go through it because it's kind of a big package with lots of stuff, but I want to show you this custom components thing. Okay, so under custom components you have to give it a class, and the class ties into whatever sensor, binary sensor, whatever. So I wrote a sensor, and that sensor is EC alerts, Environment Canada alerts. So it goes to the Environment Canada website, checks for alerts, and if there is one, okay, then display it on the page and email me. I used to say, it used to say it in speech, but then it woke me up, so I stopped that. So what I'll do is I'll show you the code. Again, pure Python, nothing else needed. All of this stuff is just standard stuff that you copy from another module. And then you have this beautiful soup, okay? A silly named module that parses HTML. That's all it does. And then there is you throttle it, so don't check any more often than 5 minutes, every 5 minutes. Because if you keep checking every 10 seconds, then Environment Canada will probably block your IP, and that will be that. Okay? So give it a name. Okay? Everything else is like, standard stuff, but then the interesting stuff is here under this function, which this is the stuff that I wrote. So initialize is just, initialize some stuff to default values, return the name, okay, return the state, and then here is the stuff that is update. So beautiful soup, get beautiful soup component, read this, and then select this part in the HTML. So I have to go into HTML, look at the source, and find out .call xs12. So this will work until they redesign their site. Hopefully, the good thing about Environment Canada, they don't do that often, so I'm good for a few years. And then it does split that, and the limitation is that text is limited to 255 in Home Assistant. So if the weather alert is only weather alert for Mount Forest, this, that, Guelph, blah, 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 and then it chops off. So you won't get the whole speech thing. or include it in the email. So I have to go to the website to see what the alert is. But then in the email, I just send a link to the website and I just click that and I get the alert. Okay, and just a helper function to strip the HTML tags to convert them to, so that when they are displayed on the main page of my Home Assistant, they don't contain HTML tags. That's it. So that's all there is to it. It was easy. I tried it out. Now what I want to do is to write a more elaborate astronomy sensor. So go and check the forecast, see what the cloud forecast is, okay, and see when the sun sets, and if that looks like a good day, then email me, rather than me keeping checking these things every day or whatever. So, but it hasn't happened yet. So in the meantime, I have this astronomy thing on a page.
You have to check the dew too.
Yeah, well, the dew, I have a dew heater, so it heats the telescope enough if I set it right, because I didn't use it for a few months and I forgot what the setting was. So I went out and then did it, and you know, I went in to set up to look at the equipment, and it was all fogged up because I didn't set it high enough. So that was another project that I didn't talk about, which was basically an automatic dew heater. So measure the temperature of the lens, okay, and the ambient temperature and the humidity, and then calculate the dew point and keep the heat there for like 3 degrees above the dew point. But then it required wires all over and stuff, and anything complicated I'm not happy with, because you know, the more complexity you have, the more things will go wrong. Already it's a telescope setup is very complex. So I just gave up on it. So that was on the to-do thing. And then this is just a Raspberry Pi running. So let me. Okay, it doesn't show that. Here it is. So this is the Python HASS. So basically the Python itself. The Home Assistant. They call it HASS. Okay. And that's the one that's running on it. Okay, let's go back to slides. So we've covered much of this. Let's see. Covered that. I showed you much of the stuff as well. And I did the brief tour. Okay, the final project that I had is a Goto telescope. So that's the STM32 thing. Okay, that's the one. Here it is. Let me take it out. So you can see that it's in a cardboard box, and because this has to sit outside with the telescope in the dew, so I just put some tape on it, so just packing tape to protect it. This is not, until I learned 3D printing design to make a case, this will have to do. So we don't have another power. Anyone has a power strip somewhere, like a 3 or more power adapter?
Here.
Yeah. Can we take it? So in order to see it in all its glory, you'll have to I think we can unplug the computer and just no, this is the projector, so if we do it this, and we're good. Oh, thanks, Andrew. So Andrew is going to stand to hold the plug because it doesn't. So I'll use this one there. So, a little bit of background. There is this firmware for telescope controllers called OnStep. And basically it's written in Arduino, within the Arduino IDE, so it's C and C++. It worked on a processor called Teensy, if anyone knew about that. So Teensy is an ARM Cortex processor. There are two versions, 3.2 and 3.5. One is an M3 and one is an M4. One is faster than the other. The M3 runs exactly at the same speed as this guy, 72 megahertz. So I said, I'm not gonna pay $25 for something that I can only get from the States through Mouser or DigiKey and pay shipping $8 and pay taxes on top of that. Okay, so I opted for, if I go and get the $3 thing and then work on the software or work on the firmware, then I have offered the community a cheap alternative. So it's not only me, but whatever I did will be useful. So I ended up writing a hardware abstraction layer, HAL. So the software was basically had if def this CPU, then do that, if def the other CPU, then do this, and all that. So I said, no, this is not the way to do it. Let's abstract all that into a hardware abstraction layer, and all the complexity regarding hardware will be in one place. So it did work, and the guy who was working on it was reluctant at first, but then he realized that this is something good, and he accepted it. So we have now the STM32 ARM. The microcontroller is this guy, the blue pill that I showed you earlier, and then the ESP8266 Wi-Fi, and the USB. Two stepper motors, so each one will drive. The telescope works in two axes. One axis points in one way in the sky, the other points another way. So if you have two motors, then you can point anywhere in the sky. It uses stepper drivers, which is basically a way to convert to run the stepper motors. About the only way that you can run stepper motor. So the apparent motion of the sky doesn't move, we move. So the Earth rotates at this rate, 15.4 arc seconds per second. So if you divide the 360 degrees of the circle divided by 24 hours and go down, then that's the rate. So at a minimum, telescope controller has to run at that speed. But then it also has other stuff that, like, it has to run the commands on serial, so it accepts commands from serial or from Wi-Fi. There is also an Android app for it, and desktop planetarium. And then, so I started in December 2017 in the firmware. By summer 2018, this should be in there. It was ported to that low-cost ARM processor. So instead of this one is 25, this one is 35, okay? And add the difference between the US dollar and the Canadian dollar, it would be more. And it also had the Arduino Mega support, but that was slow and not expensive, but not the cheapest either. So that's what I ported there. And then I also designed a PCB for it with the help of a friend, Dave Schwartz, by the way.
Yeah.
And to make the wiring easy. And that's the end result. And the total cost would be $35. Okay, so for the price, just for the MCU, you can do that much more than that. Okay, so let's demo this. Okay, so this is a planetarium software. It's called K-Stars. It's basically a free way to look at the sky. It also interfaces to telescopes. So I recommend it that if you guys are anyone who's interested in astronomy or want to see what's up in the sky at any point in time, there are two free programs. One is called Stellarium and one is called K-Stars. Stellarium is kind of better from how it looks. K-Stars have a bit more community around it, and it should be on par with Stellarium at some point in the future. But so what I can do here is that I can say connect to the controller, and I would say connect here to this guy, And let us see, okay, so it did connect. Okay. And if this happened, then I would see where the scope is mounted. See, this is the thing here. But what I wanna do is something. I mean, what's the fun in having it all run from one place? What I'll do is I'll connect from the Android app. And then run the. So there is an application for it. You can see the phone, but I'll just show you the tracking. So I'll just start the tracking, and then what I'll do is I'll say I want it to go to Mars. So if you look at the bottom of the screen there, you see Mars. Okay, so this is basically a projection of the sky. North is up, east is on the left, west is on the right, and then south is down. So Mars would be in the south. So let us go to the solar system and say Mars. Okay. So it keeps saying, stay clear, I'm moving the motors now. And then you can see the pointer there. Okay, the motors will be moving until the scope points to Mars. Okay? So I did this from my phone using Wi-Fi. And so here I used a Blue Pill ARM processor with the ESP8266 for Wi-Fi, and that's how we do that. Now, I didn't write K-stars or I didn't write on-step. I just ported this to on-step. So I can, but again, it's the power of community of open source, and that's what drew me to it. It's basically, if I can improve this, okay, then everyone will benefit. So I'll do my own selfish thing, but others will also benefit from it. So
what is each jump? What does it mean? Like, why is it?
Because the polling frequency is 1 second. I can make it a quarter of a second, then it will be smooth.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. So it says reach destination. So now if I look in the eyepiece, I should see Mars. Okay. So and then I can also what I can do is.
But you still have to do the calibration, right? Like
Yes. So there is. I didn't want to go into the tedious astronomy stuff, all the frustrating stuff we do. You think that astronomy is cool, but it's actually a very frustrating hobby. Rewarding but frustrating. So there is this clouds, there is the cold in winter, there is the mosquitoes in summer, and that's why I wanted to do this, because I want to run it from inside. That was the whole idea. Is that I once I set up the scope, I can stay inside and run it from the laptop, and that's it. I don't want to go outside, because it's either too cold or there is mosquitoes or whatever. But then there is light pollution and the trees around me and the neighbors' homes and all that. So what I could do here is I can move. You can see it's moving a little bit from Mars to this side. See that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it tracking?
Yeah. So basically, I just have a diamond, up, down, left, right, but it's basically east, west. Let me see if I can make it very fast. Okay. So it's faster now. You see? So I can move it.
Khalid,
Yeah.
once you set it to Mars, will it track the movement of the
Yes,
Earth?
that's the whole idea. And basically, what I usually people start looking in eyepieces and stuff with those of us who are of a certain age would know that your vision deteriorates as you age. So things in the eyepiece which are already dim and not very bright and all that would become dimmer and more frustrating. And there is also light pollution around. So what I did is that I take pictures using the DSLR camera. So I attach the camera to the scope, and then from inside I can take pictures. And then I keep trying until I get one that's so-so, and that would be nice. And that the advantage here is that this would also have color in it. Our eyes cannot see color at night, so whenever you look at any dim object, a galaxy or a nebula or anything like that, it's all gray. It's all shades of gray. If you take a picture, it will be color. So yeah.
So are we seeing what your telescope is seeing right now?
No. This is the controller is here. Okay, it should be connected to the telescope. It's not. I didn't bring the telescope. Okay, so basically the telescope would be outside in my backyard with the controller outside, and over Wi-Fi I would be using this program, okay, to drive it. But I can also, if I'm beside the scope, I can use the phone as well to drive it. So you can drive it either way, and that's the good thing. Yeah.
The plot, is that from some internet thing or is it local?
This is the K-Stars program.
I see.
So if you have any planetarium software, I said K-Stars and Stellarium. So any one of those will give you a picture of the sky.
Okay.
And I can also do like this and say, let's go to, so I can control it from here or from there. So I did it from the phone the first time, now I'm doing it on the, and even though I moved I used the arrows here to move away from Mars, it knows, it keeps track of where it is. So it will go to Uranus properly. And the other thing is that, again, among the frustrations of astronomy is all this is in the south. There is a lot of trees in that area, so I could never see Mars or any of the planets when they are in the south.
So you still need to align initially the telescope?
Yes. So there is actually an alignment routine where you align on 3 stars. So you tell it, I want 3 stars, then you select 3 stars. We'll go to the first one, then you center it, and then you say okay, and then you do the second one, third one. Again, I'm not an eyepiece guy, so what I did is that I said, why don't I use something called plate solving? Plate solving is basically take a picture of the sky. There is a database kind of program that can go and see which area of the sky that is from the stars that are in it, and then it will get the coordinates of the sky from there, and then update one step. So I do this, and it will go to one. So I tell it do it on those 3 stars, and it will go east, and then does this star, sync on it, does the second one, does the third one, and it's aligned. So I don't have to be next to the scope to do this. So it's a good thing. And then he accepted the patch as well. So now it's a feature of one step. So you see now it will end up at Uranus and then beep at us. Okay, so there. So that's the other microcontroller thing that I did. Let us see if I have any more slides. I think we're over time.
If you have a ready-made one, I'll buy one.
What's that?
Whatever you are showing. Right?
Okay, so basically the problem with these controllers is that you have to find a way to mount stepper motors on the mount. That was a challenge, and this is where Dave helped me, because we had to drill the flange of the thing to put a screw so that we can. So I bought 2 motors. The motors were basically from the US. They were kind of cheap, but the company didn't ship outside the US. So I had to find a friend who was coming in, and he bought it from me there, and then he brought it in. There are other options, but basically the mounting of the motors is the more challenging thing. But I had Dave, with a whole workshop, and he could drill the stuff and all that, so we were able to do this. I mean, if anyone is interested, after I'm done, then I can show you pictures of the scope and all that. So that's the other challenge here, is basically find out what design software can use to print the case instead of this cardboard box that's here. Okay, so that's my second thing. Has nothing to do with the with microcontrollers, but basically there are lots of steps, as you see. So now the controllers are taken care of, so the electronic parts is taken care of. Okay. I happen to have some excess modules that I'm not using, because initially we were using the black pill, but then we switched to 5 volts, so we use the blue pill. So I have some black pills with me, and ESP01. So if anyone is interested in something to play with, I have some extras. See me after the meeting. And here are my final notes. The Arduino ecosystem is not limited to Arduino hardware. Okay, there are other stuff that's interesting and cheap, and there are cheaper, smaller, and more powerful options available. Okay? And China plus eBay plus a bit of patience because it takes 6 to 8 weeks for stuff to show up. Okay? Is nice cheap toys. And that's everything I bought from China. Because if I bought it from the US, then I would have paid duties and taxes and brokerage fees and God knows what. MicroPython is easier and more familiar if you already know Python or ever programmed in BASIC. This should be easy. And I'm sorry I'm like 5 minutes over time, so anyone has questions or comments, or I'd be happy to answer them.
So if you want to get started in embedded programming, you're saying we should get a pharmacy degree.
Well, pharmacy degree plus 32 years of experience plus immigrating to another country and all that.
Did you ever use JTAG?
No. I always keep, whenever you have a bad router or something like that, and you go on the internet, they say, oh, here are the JTAG headers, and then, what do I do with them?
Right.
Okay,
How about a logic analyzer?
Well, yeah, so basically you need equipment, that's the thing.
So you use a logic analyzer?
No, I actually bought a small oscilloscope. I think for $20 you can get a cheap oscilloscope that is not as capable as the big ones, but it will do the job for certain things.
How many hertz?
So not much. So it's not like 1 megahertz or something. So it's not high resolution.
And how much was it?
$20.
$20.
Yeah. So basically, inside them there is an STM32, by the way. So what they did is that they have a PCB with the STM already soldered on it, and they give you so you can buy it as a kit for cheaper, for something like $10, or you can buy it as a ready-made. I don't have the patience, so I said ready-made, and I bought one. I didn't use it much though. So it turned out that the problems that I met and all that were surmountable without having to resort to deep debugging with this. And normally they are stupid things like a bad solder point, or you forgot to, or you put something the other way or something.
I know.
Yeah.
So I have it's a roundabout way of asking a question. So I have a Prius that has, when I go up to the car, I just pull the door handle and I get in, and then I turn on the car, and that's just because it has.
Because you have a key
radio.
fob in your pocket.
Yeah, yeah. I just have the key fob on me.
Yeah.
I don't know who here has a car like that. Is every other car broken when you go up to it? Like if you rent a car and you have to put the key in the ignition, you're like, oh crap.
Yeah.
Like everything is broken
Yes.
when you get used to that.
Yes.
And I'm like, why can't my front door be like that? Why can't I just come home, open?
Actually, Home Assistant can do that because it has something called presence detection. Let me show you on the screen.
Is this based off of Bluetooth?
I mean, if anyone has something that's planned or whatever, I mean, feel free to leave. I'm sorry for going over the time limit, but this, and then I need to find out the oops. I think you could just let it go.
Yes, but it's broken. So I bought it from the and it doesn't track it.
So here is presence detection. So there are these presence detection things that would basically know if, so this house has 3 people in it, and these people have phones. Okay, so it would detect if the phone has shown up. Okay, I tried it a bit and it did work, but so I used there is a which one here is I think it's a basic thing like Ping or something like that. So there is SNMP and Nmap. So there is Nmap. Okay. So what it does is that it keeps scanning for these devices, but then I've read that it affects battery on phones, and that's not a good thing. But if you have to, then basically if your phone shows up, then you can have.
Then all it needs to do is every 2 seconds, it's probably reasonable. Wake up, try to pair. If it's there, then and the problem is I wouldn't want the door lock to buzz while I'm standing
Yeah.
next to it, so I'd probably just activate the switch, and so then I just push a switch on my door, which would
Yeah, this is,
release the latch and let me through.
but what you're saying is that no intermediate home automation needed. It can be done directly from your phone to that.
Yeah, and then
that
I
thing.
could, and if I
That
stepped
thing.
in,
Okay. What I'm saying is that you won't be limited to that if you use any of those things above here.
But for that particular problem, a passive NFC kind of thing is it not good enough? Like you go near it and then.
well, so I'm concerned, so like Bluetooth LE allows exceptionally long battery lives.
Here it is.
Yeah.
So that's one thing.
There you
These-
go. Here is Bluetooth LE. Okay.
Okay.
So it's already there.
Yeah.
What I found for home automation is that the parts that automate this, the hardware that automates this is very expensive. So if I'm able to do some sensors like that from China, then it's cheap. But if I want to get a proper door lock, then you're talking $300.
Yeah, that's what I've looked at,
So,
and they're terrible.
Exactly, and the reviews are bad. And you don't know if they I mean if they are Wi-Fi, then they can send stuff to the cloud and things like that. Same thing for the HVAC. You wanted something for the climate control, then you would need a thermostat that does that. So again, $200 is the minimum. Okay, so that's the thing. But everything is there. If you want to use it, then it's there. So, maybe you can do your own door lock. The problem will be packaging it, as I found with the weather station. Weather station is outside, so it has other things, but shrinking stuff into a small package is not easy. So this is my smallest sensor. Okay, and I put it in a medicine bottle.
Well, I have a milk door next to the door, so I have room for like a car battery.
Well, you don't want the car battery, you want it as a backup.
No, but I mean, that's the size of the hole. I had to buy a large chunk of wood because the old one was sort of rotting, and they just
So-
pushed it in and walked in the house.
So this is the smallest I was able to fit something. It could be smaller if I 3D printed the case, then it would be that thick. So not much smaller, but still.
But do they make units that have the Bluetooth built in?
For this, yeah.
Okay.
The ESP32 has Bluetooth built in. I haven't used it myself, so I don't know what the limitations are.
It
But
works.
the ESP does that.
But why would we
Yes.
waste phone battery to connect to that? If we can wire the house so that the NFC chip, it will be activated by something like
So if the NFC chip first off requires to be very close, so I'd actually have to take my phone out of my pocket.
Okay.
And then the second thing is NFC chips are powering the device. So I'm not positive, I'm not an electrical engineer, but my guess is the power demand would be much higher because it needs to activate that chip.
Yes.
Because it's a passive device to get it to respond and authenticate. And so I'm thinking Bluetooth would be better because my phone it's trying to talk to your phone right now. So are you my headphones? No. Okay, are you my headphones? No.
Yeah.
And so it's already doing that. The one thing I have concern about, and probably why I do this, is that I don't want to be lying in my bed and my neighbor to be able to walk in the house because they can pair with my phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing. Because
But little steps.
So go and read the components. I mean, and anyone who is thinking of home automation of any sorts, alarm. My use case was basically replacing my old alarm system, and then I said, I can do the garage door as well. I never had that, so it's something that I'm doing. And then the temperature, the alarm system didn't have that. And then I said, astronomy, and so it kind of opens the door to many things. I mean, this presentation didn't do Home Assistant justice, but there are videos out there on YouTube that tells you how to do it, how to set it up and stuff. And this is what I started with. So anyone who's thinking of home automation, go and read the components. Forget the installation, all that, and email me. I mean, if you can remember my lastname.com, and then click on contact. You'll be able to get me. So I'll answer any questions about it, and how to install it and how that. But it keeps changing. I mean, when I was using it less than a year ago, there was only 800 components. A couple of months after, 900, then 1,000. Now it's over 1,100. So things keep adding it as people tie things into it. if you find a way for anything to be MQTT over Wi-Fi, then you can automate it with Home Assistant. Anything. And that's what I used for both the sensors that I have. And actually also the alarms, I reverse engineered the old sensors into using MQTT as an intermediate, using a custom program. Again, it was Python also. So yeah, I mean, check it out. It has lots of. Yeah.
How would you rate your experience buying from China?
Of course, you know, it's good for how much it costs, because sometimes stuff will never show up, sometimes it will be delayed, okay? But in the end, you're buying, you know, stuff like in $5-10 increments, you know, usually, because even though if I need like 20 sensors, I will only buy 2 and then test them out and see, and then go and buy that stuff. That's why the project took from December to summer, is waiting for stuff to come, and delays and stuff like that. But it is worth it. It's a good thing to have a cheap source of these toys, and in the end, this is toys we're experimenting with, and it's cool stuff. Get us through the winter and all that. But I recommend it because there are a few Kijiji sellers that are Canadian and they will send you the stuff, but it will be much inflated. The $2 stuff would be $5, and then you add shipping on top of it. So if you only need the one thing, yeah, go ahead. No
The
big
cool
deal.
thing about Kijiji is in your web browser, there's a very buried thing that you can go through and find. It's called an RSS feed. So if you search for the thing that you want, you can subscribe to the search at the price point that you're looking for. And whenever that thing comes up, you get a ping on your, well, however you get it.
Send that to the mailing list, please. The
Yeah,
link,
that's
the link.
interesting.
Oh, that's nice.
It's big. So what you see that little like exclamation point in the lock? If you click that, it'll open up that little drop down.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you do that right now actually. You click that. It won't show up probably on here unless there's RSS feeds. But if you hit that arrow on the side, and this used to be in the main view, but they've gone and buried. You hit more information. And in here, see feeds. So if you click on feeds at the top, there you can grab the Atom feed there, and you can put that into any RSS compatible thing of any kind. There's also a website, ifthisthenThat.com, if you want to have somebody else do it for you.
Well, again, one of the things I didn't use, if this then that, it's a hosted service. Google is notorious for shutting down services at any time,
Oh gosh.
and anyone can do that. So plus the reliance thing. If you remember the Raspberry Pi presentation that I did with my friend's son, he started out saying, "Oh, I want to use this service," and I said, "Okay, so you're going and to demonstrate this in the science fair, and you don't have the internet. What do you do?" So I convinced him to go the Python route and write stuff, and that was again one of the motivations to learn Python was to help this guy. So
I wonder when somebody will write their own if this then that clone that's open source.
it's called the Home Assistant. Yeah, it's called automations. So basically, if we go in here.
Sure.
So you see, there's already this and that here. You can use that.
So that reaches out to more than just the home automation. It can also
Then you
reach
have-
out to
then you have-
web apps and stuff.
You have input boolean, input text, input select. So all sorts of input, then you have automation. And they show up like that. So basically, you write it like this, for example.
If you find something, generic web scraping notes. If you want to go find something.
So if you go to the documentation, and then you can.
So you're using it right now?
I wanted to do some things, so I tried it. But
Here,
what
here it
I
is.
wanted became a feature, so I didn't have to use it.
Okay, here is an example, for example, saying that
Anyway,
Light.
we can chat about this on.
Yeah, light on in the evening. So the trigger is, so if this and that, then light the light. So if the sun is below the horizon, okay, and probably someone is at home or something, and the time is between this and that, then turn the light on. So here's another one, away mode. So you can you can trigger the arm the alarm, for example, if everyone leaves the home automatically. Okay, or if it's 11 p.m. at night every day. So you can do all this stuff here.
Why not if it's dark?
What's that?
Why not if it's dark?
Uh,
If it's dark, through light.
well, dark here is what 5 p.m. in the middle of winter, and people have not shown up from the people have not gone home yet. So you have to wait till everyone to be home. So yeah, but you can do it if you want it that way. You can do it. Okay, so that's all I have to say, and I hope you explore the technologies more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kelly. That was really interesting.